What's up guys, Shane here from Fugatech 3D Printing, and today we're going to finally do it. We're going to do part 2 of my modding of the Monoprice Select Mini. Let's get started. Welcome back guys. I said a lot of people have been asking about this video. It's been a long time coming, but I just recently got the printer back in my hands, so now I can work on it. And this is going to be part 2. I'm not sure if this is going to be part 3 yet. We're kind of going to see how this one ends. This definitely is going to be a good solid part 2. I've got lots of things planned for this. So let's talk about them first, and then we'll actually dive into the printer. So I kind of cheated a little bit. I have the printer kind of apart already, just kind of help speed this up a little bit. I was testing a few things to make sure they would fit before I did the video. That way it wouldn't be caught off guard. But I went ahead and took off the spool mount, which you saw in the last video, and the little accessory holder, which holds my Allen wrench, and it can hold some SD cards, holds that right on top. Those have both been taken off for now. And the reason why I did that is because I need access to the rear panel of this tower, which has about 4 or 5 screws up top and in the bottom you need to take out so that you can remove the panel. We need to have access because we're on the smooth rods. We're going to go ahead and install these little stabilizers. Now these are supposed to help the rods stay a little truer than what they are. Not sure, this is the one I'm kind of not sure if it will actually help or not, but we're going to give it a shot to see how they fit. If other people are having a problem, at least they'll know how to install them, you know, and that'll work for them more. But here I'm kind of just like, I don't know if it's going to be a big issue for me, but either way, we'll give it a shot. The next thing we're going to do is something that I really do need to do on this printer, and that is fix the heated bed cable. Because I'm actually starting to, when the heated bed goes all the way to the back, I do not get a reading from the thermistor. So there is this issue with the cable for that. I don't know if it's fully broken and it's just kind of making contact most of the time, because I can still do successful prints, but when it comes back, it like loses its connection, then comes back forward, and then it sees it. I was like, oh, I need to apply more heat. It puts more heat back on because the connection totally cuts out, so the heating element stops. So we're going to run it out the back. We're going to do the no drill method. There's tons and tons of different ways to do this. You just search and think of it like Monoprice Select Mini bed cable. You're going to get like 30 or 40 different ways to do this. I'm going with the no drill version just because it's the easiest, and I feel like most people will probably do that. And you have this little chain, and there are 2 pieces here, and it's going to end up being on the printer like this. So this is going to mount on the back. You need 2 new screws and 2 new bolts for this one. And then the bottom is going to go through the existing screw holes that are there, using the existing screws that hold the bottom plate onto the printer. It's going to go on just like that, and it will slide back and forth like so. The guy recommended 10 links. I actually had 12 in there, so I took 2 out. We'll see how this one works, but I do have a couple extra links. Either way, I have even more in the box here, just because you never know when a link's going to fail. Always print a few extras whenever you print multiple pieces like this at a time. I mean, it's not even a penny per link, so why not just print them to have them on hand? Now those come with a few extra pieces. These spacers come with it. These are going to be used to raise it up around all sides, which is mainly just the front and the back. The sides don't really matter. And then there are a few spacers here, very small spacers. They're going to raise up the actual control board. There's 4 of them, because the control board, once we do this, is going to be lower than the holes are for the USB and the micro SD port. These are going to raise it up to the same level. That way you can still access those ports and nothing's really going to hurt there. While we're talking about the board, we're going to go ahead and add in a 40mm fan that's going to blow straight down onto it. This one, again, there are at least 20 different versions of fan mounts for this board that you can get. This is just the first one I chose a while back, and I printed this quite a long time ago. So here's the part, and I don't have any spacers, so I went ahead and printed out 3 12mm spacers. And then I realized I didn't have the right size bolts because I don't have my catalog here of all the different nuts and bolts that I usually have. So I dove into the Prusa i3 Mark III spare part kit, and I found a couple of these 25mm bolts. They're a little too long. 20mm would be perfect for this, but I have these 25, so I went ahead and printed out some other spacers just to kind of help out with those, and that way they will hit the spacer on top, it will be the board, the larger spacer, and then it will be the other spacer under the board, which is going to, again, offset it from the bottom, and then it will go into the actual bottom panel of the printer. And I also had to actually print out this one as well. It's a much simpler one, just uses two. I happen to like just this one a little bit better. This print did not come out as good as I'd hoped. It was out of a PETG with a early profile that I literally printed probably close to 8 months ago. I printed this, just had not gotten around to installing it. So we're not going to use this one, but again, there are other options out there. And the hot end, I did go ahead and already change out the hot end, so I'm going to show you the parts I did with that. I chose the simplest zero offset one there was, but there is another version that I'm going to start printing, and I will show you guys here at the end of the video, because most of this is going to be time lapses. I'm going to talk about some of it. I'm not going to show you exactly how to put everything on there because it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll do as much detail as I can, and I'll start that other print, and then hopefully by when this is done I can show you what that would look like, because that one includes part cooling. This one does not. So for, you know, general small prints it's okay, but I really want to get part cooling on this, so I think I'm going to switch to other part. But either way, let's go ahead and get started on some of these mods. Okay, so here we are under the printer. Now there was just 6 screws holding it around the outside, and that bottom plate just came right off, and now we have access inside to take a look. So here we have the board. The board is held in by 4 screws. So this is actually the first thing that we're going to actually play around with, but be mindful of where all the cables are going. I'm not going to disconnect any except for the hot end when I get to that, or I should say the hot end, the heated bed and the thermistor, which come right through here. It's these 4 cables here in the back. We're going to take those out, reroute them under the board, or under this plate here, and then that will be our new connection point, at least our new routing, and that should hopefully help out with these, you know, shortings that I'm getting with the prints. So here's our little board here, this little adapter plate we're going to be using. So this is going to go over like so. It's going to go over like that. So we're going to take out these 3 screws. Yeah, we're only taking out 3 because it only requires 3 for this. We don't have to take out the 4th one. We'll have to take it out anyways. We'll actually probably take it out now. So I can put the spacer in there that we're going to need. Well, these screws are not long enough for the spacers. Crap, I didn't realize that. So you will need longer screws for that spacer, but I might be able to make it work with just the 3 for now. So let's get some of our parts together here. So we need the smaller spacer on there first. And we're going to go through the printed part here, maybe. Okay. I'm just going to go through a larger 12mm spacer. I'm just going to go through the board, and that is still not long enough, man. Let's see if I have any other screws here. All right, so I have some different ones here. These ones are 30 mil, so I'm hoping they're not too long. Again, that's kind of the issues of not having all my parts here. Kind of shooting in the dark with some of these, exactly how long I need. That looks like that will be a better chance of fitting in there. So let's get the rest of these on. All right, so to get a little bit ahead of myself, I'm going to go ahead and again, my screws are a little bit too long, so I'm going from the bottom just so I don't interfere with the heat sink underneath, which is the whole thing we're trying to cool. The heat sink is covering all the stepper drivers as they are embedded in this board. Again, I don't have a screw in that back one just because it's a little too long. I guess I could take off one of these. Actually, that little spacer was pretty tight, so it actually will just at least keep it steady there. Didn't quite lock it in, but that's more than enough that we need for this. Now, supposedly this fan is supposed to work, this fan inlet here. On my board, it has it. On some of the older boards, it does not have that. So you could just solder it right onto the 12 volt in. But for now, I'm going to just try that and see if it actually does work once we get it up to temperature. So we do have to just wait on that. Okay, now to work on the back, we're gonna need to take out a few screws. So down here, there are 3 screws that you need to take out. And then we're gonna switch here to the back, or at least the top here at least. And then these 4 here need to come out. And that way, this back panel comes off, just like that. See, there's the 4 holes at the bottom and the 4 tabs in the top. Actually, only 3 in the top. I took one of those out. I had to take it off anyways because my little holder was up here, but that's okay. So we have the back off. We have access to it. There's lots of different things you can do in here. Some of the different mods will have you replace the little coupler down here. That is for the Z, if your Z is bent. Mine is a little bit. I don't think it's causing too many issues though, but it is something that you can do. We're gonna go back underneath and we're gonna take out the screws for these. I've already taken the top out for here. The one on the left requires 3 screws. The one on the right only requires 2 to come out. So do them one at a time because we don't want anything to get too loose, and then trying to readjust everything will just be an absolute nightmare. So there I have my top released, and how I'm gonna get to it, I do not know. I have to go ahead and loosen up the front ones too. I hold the front plate on so I can get better access to it, I think. Okay, so you guys can see that. You can't see any of that. Are you kidding me, Shane? All right, sorry. It's a little hard to show up in here, but this is where it is. Focus, there it is, okay. So this little piece right here slides down. It just holds that in there. So I went ahead and I had to use the screws to pull it back up because it's such a tight fit. So I just took the washer off and then used it to pull it on. And that locked it in. So I can go ahead and put this side back on at least. Okay, so there's that side done. Now rinse and repeat for the other, and then we'll go underneath and do the bottom. Okay, so now we're gonna use the little one here for this side. You see that already fell down when I did that. We're gonna need to take off the bottom as well because I cannot get that no matter what I do. So we're gonna go back underneath. And we're gonna take off the other screws and hold those plates on. Again, I'm gonna do one side at a time. Okay, so that took an enormous amount of work, but I was finally able to bend this up enough in order to get that bottom one on. Holy good gravy, that was brutal. I really do hope this is worth it. So line this up and push it back in. I'll have to use a screw to pull that up, and then these other 2 for the bottom, I will try and get these in now as well, if I'm able to pull this up enough to get it wedged in there. Might not be able to. Whew. All right, now to try and put this thing all back together. All right, so now that those are all in and they're good to go, now we're gonna worry about the heated bed cable, which goes underneath here. It's gonna go underneath here. So if we roll this over, which you guys can actually see this time, there is the main power. Here we have the thermistor, which is back here. And it just pops out. And we have the heated bed cable, which I don't think I can do one-handed here. Okay, so that's the 2 of those, and we're going to fish those out. And then, so now we have to try and fish those out, which I don't know if I'm able to show you guys or not because it's pretty tight under there where I need to get these out. Bed cable, which I don't know if it's going to fit out this. I might need to take it out. Yeah, I'm going to need to take out the connectors, take off the connector I should say, if I can. That's going to be the challenge. These connectors are small. Again, I don't have my toolbox here. Basically, we're just going to push these pins all the way in, the spurs. So black's on the left. Let me forget, guys. And now those are out. Now to get those back up, you just need a razor blade. And just kind of put it right there and pull those tabs up so that when you put it back in the connector, they will grab and not come out again. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get our cable chain here. We're gonna go ahead and fish the wires through before we put that big connector back on. I'm afraid that that'll be too hard to do with it on. I didn't take it up hard. It's supposed to come out the top there. Son of a gun, I just spent like 10 minutes putting this through. I forgot. So it has to come out this top one here. So I'm going to have to take the bed off in order to do that. Now we can put this through the cable chain. Okay, so here are the two holes we're going to use. These two middle ones. There's 3 in the back. The bottom, the smooth rods are in here. We're going to use the 2 center ones. Now I don't have hardware that is short enough. I'm going to be using just some longer ones because that is what I have available to me right now. They won't get in the way of anything. And I'm going to be using lock washers because I do not want these to come out for any means, any reason. So, switch up my bit. All right, so it's now evening number 2 that we're working on this, and for very good reason. I actually ran into several issues last night while recording and then a little bit after I had stopped because I had to go to stopping point. Number 1, my little camera died, but the battery is charged up on that so we can get some close-ups again. Number 2, I was still having issues with the heated bed. So I'm going to show you the end result of routing that cable. I did that, still had issues with the heated bed cable, so I wanted to test everything out before I went and recorded more of this. So I had to replace the thermistor wire, and that fixed it completely. So now this rerouting that won't happen again. Shouldn't happen again, I should say. But if you are new to the Monoprice Select Mini, this is a mod you might want to look into because eventually it will fail. Granted, I had it for, what, a year before it actually failed? So, or more than that. I had almost, it's 2 years now that I have this? I can't remember now. Either way, I had it for a long time. Hundreds of hours of prints on this thing. I mean, I printed so much stuff on this time and time again. And eventually it will fail. It's just a design flaw, which I think the version 2 is taking into account, but version 1 it is a problem. And since I already had it ripped apart, I went ahead and took the time to run a new cable to the hot end, and that is so I can run 2 fans. Now the fan on the Monoprice Select Mini, so the original 40mm fan that's slapped on the top, on the front here, is PWM controlled, which is interesting because it goes basically, it works 2 ways. Number 1, it works once the hot end gets up to a certain temperature, it turns on. But then during a print, it will then work at minimum, I think it runs at like probably like 30 or 40%. Like it doesn't put a lot of air out, But if you run the M106 command S255, so you're setting the speed to 255, which is max power, 12 volts to the fan, it blazes along. And that's why there's other fan shrouds out there that have little blocks that go in them and things like that. But I figured, well, you know what, let's figure something out here. So I went and did a little bit of testing in Pronterface, and I found out that, okay, once this heats up, it turns on, but then I can do the M106 command and raise it up as high as I want to, which means the slicer will be able to control that. So I went ahead, ran a new wire, and I soldered it to the bottom of the board where the 12 volt from the power input comes into the printer. Reason why I did that is because the power supply is right here. It's an external brick in the printer. And there's no way to just attach it to the terminals or anything like that. I mean, unless you do some soldering and add some new connectors. Didn't have any of that. So I just went ahead, I have a soldering iron, a little bit of solder, and I had a piece of wire hanging around. So I just went ahead and connected it underneath the board to the positive negative of where the 12 volt comes into the board. That way it always has, as long as the printer's on, that fan will be running, which is perfectly fine by me. I may end up running a resistor just to lower the voltage just a little bit in it, or maybe put a voltage adjustment on it just because I don't want it to, it's pretty loud. I mean, this is this is an E3D clone 30 millimeter fan. They run very loud, but they push so much air. They do a great job of cooling. They're just very loud fans. So I might eventually end up doing that, but for now, I don't care. It runs 12 volts, so it cools the cold end or the heat sink of the hot end very well. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it with that. And then the other cable, the other connector that was already there, I'm gonna go ahead and run that to the blower fan for the new hot end assembly that I went ahead and printed. So I told you guys I was gonna go ahead and print that, and I did so. I'm hoping this is going to work because I did see a make for it that said that it actually sits too low. It actually sits lower than the hot end does, which has me concerned. I don't know how this is going to fit, but I'm going to go ahead and do it here real quick. I'm not gonna run the video while I'm doing it. It's just kind of ludicrous. I'm sure you guys can figure out how to install this. It's not hard. It's take the old bolts off, put this one on, using the same bolts, it's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and see if it actually does work. If it does, I'll give you guys the links to this one. But basically all it is here is you have the back end, which goes onto the carriage, the front clamp, which clips on there, and you can see it's a little bit lower because there's this little blower boot, which is a very, very popular fan shroud for the blower fans and E3D. There's tons of different variations of this, and it's just this variation for this printer. It's a little bit stringy. This is printed in Amazon Basics Red PETG. I wanted something a little more heat resistant, and PETG will do that better than PLA. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this all together, put the hot end in it, and see if it actually does meet up properly. I might be able to loosen the nozzle and tighten the block a little bit to get around it. I'm not sure if I can. So I might see if I can find the guy that made the make of it, or find out myself and just slice a piece out of this in Fusion 360 and make it just that much shorter. I'm unsure yet what I'm going to do with that. So I wanted to give you guys a status of where it's at. And oh, we'll look at the heated bed, and then I will go ahead and swap this out so you guys can see that. Hang on. Okay, so here we are on the back. So you can see here is the cables. These white wires, these are the new thermistor wires that I ran. I have this bolted in now, and it runs down, and it comes down here at the bottom. As you can see, the bolts that hold the frame on are what hold this bottom piece on here, and then the wires just run in and connect in as they should. But there's also these other long ones that go along with it, and they overlap right here. Ooh, focus, focus, focus. And you can see right there, they overlap. And there's also ones here for the front. You gotta put them on the front as well. That gives you even spacing around the whole printer. And of course, here I have the spacers on the bottom of the board, and that way those will turn, well, they raise it up so that your USB and SD card will meet the holes right here. You could reprint an entire side for this. I voted against that just because I wanted this one with this ball joint. I do need to still drill my hole through that. And that way I can run a LED up on, and it can kind of shine down on here for some good time lapses, as I have the GoPro mount right here. And it was all very easy. And then again, the other wire I ran through here, I just zip tied it. Right there's a big zip tie. It just runs through there, comes out the bottom. As you can see, it's right there. And then underneath there, as you can see back here, those are where I made my connections underneath the board in order to, again, get power, to 12 volt straight power to that fan. So now I'm going to go ahead and replace the hot end and take a look at how this thing, let's see if it works. Let's go with that. All right, so after getting this on, I've decided I don't like it, and it is not going to work because as I said, someone else had commented, this sits too low. It's about a millimeter difference. So I'm going to redesign it, and I'm going to cut off probably 3 millimeters. Just give myself a little extra clearance there in case anything starts rising up. I just like to have a little extra clearance. The extra 2-3 millimeters is not going to matter that much. At least it'll be above where the nozzle tip is. It's still not going to be blowing on the heater block, which is good. I'm still going to get a silicone heat sock for this anyways. But still, it definitely does need to be redesigned just a smidge. And that should be an easy thing to do. So I'm going to throw that in Fusion 360 and do that. But I'm going to save that for another day. I'm not going to do a video on that, but I will put a link in the video description with the new part, because by the time this gets edited and uploaded, I will have that new part printed and tested to make sure that it works. So check down there for the redesign of this blower if that's what you want. And just kind of to show again here, you can see that this goes here on the front like so. A 50-15 blower goes right here and shoots right down, and these two scoops push it right there onto the print, which is excellent. I do really like the design, so I'll go ahead again and fix that, and we should be fine. I might need to also re-put where that hole is right there for the actual connection, so I have to move that up a few millimeters as well. But again, that should not be too bad to do. And let's see, where else are we at here? I think that's going to be it for this part. I mean, looking at this now, so this fan, again, will end up getting mounted here on the side. It will blow across this way. So that's, that will be taken care of. All I have to do is reconnect the bottom, which I'm going to do now. It's not, nothing is nothing's waiting for me to reconnect the bottom. Oh, it is. I still have to reattach the back panel. So once I attach the back panel, I'll reattach the bottom here. And that should be it. We should pretty much be working. And I mean, if you guys want a follow-up on this, on some more of it, let me know. Leave a comment down below if there's something more you want to see on this. The results of prints after all of this. Again, I kind of was doing all this. Some of this is just in order to make life a little bit easier. I was noticing a little bit of banding in my prints. So there are a lot of different ways you can go about fixing that. I've gone about 4 ways here to kind of eliminate that. So I'm hoping for like super precise prints once this is all said and done. So I'm gonna leave it at that, guys. If you wanna see more, let me know in the comments down below. I can always do a follow-up video, it's not a big problem, but do let me know down below. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. Talk in the comments down below what you'd like to see more of, more in-depth, not as much in-depth. This is gonna be an incredibly long video, I'm sorry about that, but it's kind of just the way it ended up morphing and all the different ways to do this. Now what you guys need to do is hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, that way you get a notification when I upload new content, especially if I do something like this or if I do live streams, you'll be one of the first ones to know. If you want to support me financially, click the link below me. That's a Patreon link, it takes you over to Patreon, get access to my Patreon feed for only $1, and you also get access to my after show, which I record after all of my new videos. If you guys want to support me other ways, there's Streamlabs, Buy Me a Coffee, or there's affiliate links down there with other coupons. Use those with those websites. A little slice of what you buy comes back here to help me at the channel. So thank you guys for watching, and until next time, happy printing.